today, and things that will help kids taste, smell, and explore new foods with you while keeping it fun for everyone. So if you like the ideas, give me a thumbs up or some love and share your ideas too in the comments. Here we go. First, let's start with a few things that don't even involve food because, it can make a real difference when it's time to actually introduce a new food if you start with a few of these sorts of items. It took me literally 2 seconds to spot this on the shelf at the dollar store. So here's the first thing I wanted to show you. This is just a picture book of fruits for toddlers. There's very good research that shows that when you have simple books like this for little toddlers to enjoy and point to the various foods inside, this, as I said, this one's all about fruit. And when they work on pointing and naming, that it's more likely that they'll actually learn to enjoy those same foods. Isn't that fascinating? Good research on that one. Plus, as a speech therapist, these types of board books are great for early language, for vocabulary building, and really even for pre-reading skills too. So start there. But no matter what the age, if you're going to introduce, say, a new fruit, like we were just talking about, well, spend $1 and decorate the kitchen. I randomly walked down an aisle, saw this, and I thought, perfect. If I had a little kid that we were introducing watermelon, which is a pretty challenging food for a lot of kids because of the extra water in the melon, it can be a little challenging, especially if those kids have difficulty managing saliva and liquid in their mouth with food at the same time. Isn't this cute? Like all of the stuff I'm going to be showing you, I haven't even opened yet. It's all about 2 hours ago. But I thought, you know what? For $1, how fun would it be if I were going to start working on watermelon to first start the therapy session by just getting these little embossed cards and making a streamer or putting them all over the refrigerator and teaching the kid about watermelon seeds and the shape of watermelon, etc. The kids can get involved with you. It only takes 5 minutes and it puts everybody in a great mood. And gosh, you know what I just realized after pulling them out? How fun would these be for like go fish or for counting skills, or even for every time you take a bite, you get to mark off one of the seeds or put a sticker over the seed. And when you cover all the seeds, you get a special prize. All sorts of fun things you can do with these. And every time you show up with something new for your little one or a kiddo in feeding therapy, they're little kids. They love it. It costs $1. Okay. The main thing I want you to think about is that whatever you're learning to become an adventurous eater as a child, and it doesn't matter whether you're a 2-year-old or a 12-year-old, it's very, very important that you think about going from fun to yum. I think as parents, we tend to get overemphasize when's the kid going to eat the broccoli. And if they're even nervous around the broccoli, we've got to do a little bit of work first. So I know those of you who are here tonight have seen me talk about this book, Adventures in Veggieland, but I'm going to share it especially tonight because the theme is going from fun to yum. So if your child is super anxious about new foods, you'll never believe what I found at the dollar store today. Random. Feed the Monster alphabet game. Try to put it here so that there's no glare on it. Look at this, you guys. There's 4 monsters inside this, and then all the foods right here that you can feed the monster with. So you could start with this and then maybe pick some of the foods like the grapes or the red pepper and cut up those foods, real foods, and feed the monster too. Hey, now your kid is touching new foods and they're having a great time doing it because you brought this monster game into the picture. So remember, at first, we never want to pressure a kid, but parents especially, I want you to know that at first, it's just about playing right now in order to reduce their anxiety and make them want to come back to the table and do even more for you. So creating that positive atmosphere during the first couple sessions in feeding therapy, and also things that you can automatically do at home to encourage more adventurous eating. It always starts with fun and keeping the anxiety down. Now, as a feeding specialist, my job as I build that child's confidence is to gently push them. You know, I'm a food coach. My job is to coach them, gently push them to acquire that skill. But first we start with very, very positive experiences, get that kid's confidence up, and really have them looking forward to interacting with food with you. Okay, whether we're about to eat or getting ready to cook something together in the kitchen, the first step is always washing our hands, right? Well, all kids benefit from routine, and you'll see that even the best teachers, I see that one just popped in right now that I know real well, and I know she's going to when I say this, but the best teachers at your child's school always incorporate routine-based learning into every day, meaning that they start the day in some way with a familiar song, maybe a welcoming song, or, you know, the older kids, maybe a funny joke, or they talk about what happened over the weekend. There's always a gentle routine to starting each day in the classroom. And that familiar routine nowadays is often hand washing. Kids are used to coming into the classroom and starting by washing their hands. It's something now that we do quite a bit in order to keep kids healthy and not spread germs, and the kids are used to that routine. Likewise, make sure when you're interacting with food for the first time, or whether you're going to cook or maybe just do some food games, that you start with a hand washing routine. But here's a little tip that'll get some kids in the kitchen that maybe are a little hesitant to get started. They're kind of nervous about what's going to happen. Check this out. This was my favorite that I got today. They had all different animals that are these little soap sponges that we would typically use in the shower, right? And this is like a little washcloth. It's super duper, but you could keep this right in the kitchen, or for every kid could have their own before they go into do a little bit of feeding therapy. And it provides a little extra tactile input, really gives the kids a good chance to really scrub. You want them singing happy birthday twice as they're scrubbing to make sure all the germs go away. And then these just go right in the washer on super hot water or your dishwasher, and that'll clean them up just fine. Well, you know what, for $1, if you're doing a feeding group in a clinic, every kid could have their own, and then you could wash it and save it for them for next week. And at the end of maybe food camp for the summer, they get to take this home as a special prize. But parents especially, something fun like this that's really different. Hey, look at the pig I got. Come on in the kitchen. Let's wash our hands. I guarantee you the kids are going to come in to want to do this. So I thought that was pretty fun. Okay. You know, I was thinking about this too, that I will share another article here for you about helping kids with sensory processing difficulties, especially those with autism, really get involved in the kitchen, and I'll post that here as well. But I like those kids even to help clean up and scrape and wash the dishes too. So you know what? You could use these for washing dishes too. That'd make it super fun. I'm gonna have to convince my husband of that. This is what he used to use. Actually, he's a great dishwasher, but let's see. Speaking of getting clean, part of learning to become an adventurous eater is learning how to get messy. So as I know some of you know, in my book with pediatrician Namali Fernando, Raising a Healthy, Happy Eater, and in my new book, Adventures in Veggieland, I talk a lot about the importance of kids getting messy. And one of my favorite tools to build confidence in getting their hands messy is using a toy or a Matchbox card, you know, the little cars. Check this out. 2 for $1 today at the dollar store. And they came in an assortment. There were so many different ones. Of course, I had to grab the construction ones because I just thought they were so cool. And you know what? Here's a tip. Don't let the kids play with this away from food. You want to save special things like this for when you want kids to get messy, especially those kids who are hesitant about getting messy. So in both of my books, I use examples like putting car wash, or in Veggieland, there's this really cool, fun activity where you take mashed potatoes and sweet potatoes and you build a big mountain. It's actually a volcano. And, you know, you could take these little Matchbox cars and drive them up and down that mashed potato mountain, put a shallow dish of water at the end, and that could be the lake at the bottom of the mountain that the cheek gets to splash into. The kids will get some relief from the mess on their hands, but they're having so much fun in the process. Make sure there's just always some sort of bowl of water, whether it's a lake at the bottom of the mountain or just a bowl on the side, where they can rinse their hands and continue to play as they go. You'll find ideas like that on page 48 of Adventures in Veggieland, and you can learn about that volcano made with sweet potatoes and mashed potatoes. Okay. What about kids who are just learning to chew? What do we do for those kids? Well, so many different strategies, but when I was at the dollar store today, the very first thing I found, and I had to grab it, were freeze-dried fruit. These happen to be peaches. They had all different fruits, apples, etc. And the great thing about these, all this stuff is brand new. Like I said, I literally bought it 2 hours ago. So let's open this up. And the great thing about these is they'll come in a big piece like this. Really wonderful for learning eaters, for babies, for kids who maybe have medical challenges and are older but are just learning to chew. They can hold on to it and gnaw on it. Remember to have them gnaw kind of over on the side. They're much more likely to have success that way than put it in the front, because they're more likely to spit it out. But with these, you could even break off a little pea-sized amount. Let me break this one in half one more time. There we go. And put it right on their molar. Encourage them to do that and chomp 2 times. It'll melt right away. It's almost like stale cotton candy, to be honest with you. It is so quick to mix with saliva and melt right away. So after those 2 chomps, they can't even spit it out because it's just mixed with saliva. Hand them a cup with a straw and encourage them to take a drink, and that'll help wash it down as well. So yeah, freeze-dried fruits are the best. You know, it got me thinking, when we jump right to taste like that, but sometimes we have these kids who aren't ready to taste yet because they're so sensitive to the aroma of the food. Even when I opened up these for the first time just a minute ago, I could really smell the peaches inside. I love it. But for a lot of my kids that I work with, that would make them gag. So let's talk about things at the dollar store that we could use for those kids, because they're really hard to get in the kitchen and they're so sensitive. Okay, check this out. $1, my favorite. It is a little battery-operated fan that you can clip right on the counter. Here's my tag. Like I said, these are all brand new. I just bought them. And you want to position this so that the fan blows the aroma away from the child. So that could even be behind them if it's something really aromatic, maybe something you have on the stove. Or you could even position it this way so that the aroma is blowing this way across their face rather than up their nose, right? These are awesome. I use these all the time for kids who are sensitive to smell. Another strategy you can use it if the child's over age 3 and is safe for gum chewing. A lot of kids can chew gum, but they can't chew solid foods yet. As a matter of fact, it's one of the first skills I teach. Make sure they're over 3. But if they're sensitive to aroma, you could still have your fan. But look, for $1, I got a package of gum, and I specifically got the ones with the hard coating on the outside because I want those kids to have to really work and chew hard and get into chewing. This would be with peppermint. Now, remember, kids who are really sensitive to aroma, we're not going to work on taste yet. We're working on tolerating the smell. So the gum in their mouth isn't going to get in the way in any way because they're not going to put food in their mouth yet. But the aroma of the peppermint masks any other aroma, or at least minimizes it. Plus, chewing the gum itself helps kids to calm down and focus. So the peppermint will keep their olfactory center busy, and they won't pay as much attention to the aroma of the food. So here's another tip for these kids too. When learning to smell new foods and you're intentionally working on that, go to the dollar store and grab one of these little pill boxes. I prefer the ones that are round, but you know, they come in a long 10-inch version too. You've seen those. These are great because you can put tiny amounts of aromatic food in each container. You can even label it with food stickers if you'd like. And then the child can open the compartment, and they can even hold it down low and get a little bit of the aroma if you wanted to. You could also incorporate your fan and have them blow toward their face this time so that the aroma reaches them, and have them control this way. Sometimes just focusing on that helps them not to be so anxious about the aroma itself. But if they can lift the lid, you might have to help some kids, and take a whiff, close it immediately afterwards so they get some relief. Another terrific way to interact with new aromas is to take herbs and spices, like even just cinnamon, and make a paste out of the powdered spice. So put a little bit of, say, cinnamon, or gosh, I could even take some basil out of the garden, and chop it up, and then add a tiny bit of water and mix it into a paste. Put a pea-sized amount in every one of these so you have a bunch of different herbs and spices, and then you can open those and take a whiff. The reason why you want to mix it into a paste is because you don't want little kids to accidentally breathe in the powder. That's never a good idea. And when it's mixed into a paste, it's not as pungent. So just another solution for you as well. Okay. No matter what you're working on, make sure that you go to the dollar store. They always have this, and pick up some of this. Let me see if I can show you this way. Non-slip shelf liner. I know I'm going to get a bunch of thumbs up because there are a lot of therapists watching today, and we live for this stuff. We always have it with us. It's the best. So parents, here's some tips for you on why we love this so much. This stuff is great to put under cutting boards in the kitchen, but under little butts in the high chair too. The cutting boards won't slip on the counter, and the little butts won't slip in the seat. So that's the whole point, right? The cutting boards and those little butts, we want the kids to feel safe, to feel stable, and they need to have good posture and not have their hips slipping in that seat if they're going to be able to have good fine motor skills and oral motor skills, even licking or biting or hopefully chewing and swallowing. All of that is dependent on this gross motor stability. So make sure you've got some of this non-slip liner right under their little bottoms, and that will help them not to slip. Here, let me open it up for you and show you another little trick. The great thing about this stuff is that you can actually throw this in the bottom of your diaper bag for your toddlers, and when you get to the restaurant, all you do, you know how they give you those awful square booster seats? They're the worst. And they put them on a booth, and they stick the kid in there, and I have seen that booster seat and that child go right under the table, and that is just a head injury waiting to happen. It always scares me. So I recommend to all my families that if they're not going to bring their own booster seat, and they keep this in the car, bring a dollar roll of this, and when you unwrap it, all you do is fold it over your booster seat. Wish I had one here to show you, but fold it all the way around the booster seat itself and down into the seat, almost like you're wrapping it like a Christmas package. Then when you set that booster seat on the booth, or even on a chair, not only will the booster seat stick, but the child will stick better in it too, and you're less likely to have accidents. So just another little tip for you. Okay. What about kids who are ready to try new foods and can chew and swallow pretty well, but they're just stuck on their favorites? Well, one of the most common breakfast issues I run into is that I get these kids who will eat Cheerios and they'll drink milk, but they won't put milk on the Cheerio. So how do you teach kids to have a bowl of cereal and tolerate milk on top? Let me show you this stuff, and it's all stuff I got today at the dollar store. First of all, you're going to get yourself a bowl. Found this one today, and of course, if it's got a straw in it, that's awesome, because we can work on sipping the milk from the bottom and not having to worry about the soggy cereal. You'll still get the flavor of the cereal in the milk. Now, I like kids to have pretty healthy cereals, but if you need to start with something that's a little bit more sugary, that's okay. You can always mix something like this into regular Cheerios over time and eventually fade out the sweetness. So, also got these at the dollar store, these smaller containers of Cheerios. You're going to put your Cheerios in, And then give the kids a little pitcher or a little cup, tiny, to pour the milk over the cereal so that the cereal itself is not swimming in the milk, but it's almost just has a little spray of milk on it, you know, not very much at all. Let me show you what I like to use. Please don't tell the children about this. These are shot glasses that I got at the dollar store today. So what you're going to do is take them out of the package so the kids don't ask you what they're for. And I use these all the time for cooking, for this activity, and even for learning to drink. What I'm going to do is fill this up with milk and put it next to the kiddo with the bowl of cereal, and then they can pick it up themselves. You know, even my 2-year-olds can do this and just drizzle it over. You don't want very much milk. Now what they can do is they can either sip the milk, or they could even pick up some of the Cheerios with their fingers because they're not going to be soggy, but they're still coated in milk. Or I found these today. There's so many fun devices to pick up food, but check this out. They had these big tongs for only $1, of course, all brand new stuff. And check them out. They've got these, I'm trying to show you here, special places just for your fingers so the kids can get a really good grip. And they could even go in and just pick up the Cheerios like this. I mean, that's really fun. Why not have a fun device like this with some new food, and everybody just takes their time and tries to eat with them? You know, it takes it slow. It delivers tiny bites. It's silly. It's fun. Everybody's giggling. It's $1. Okay. The point is, keep the anxiety down. Always start with fun, and these are fun. Finally, you know that I'm all about getting kids in the kitchen. So I had no idea today that when I went to the dollar store, I would find not only a bunch of different kids' aprons for $1, but they even had, check it out, for $1, chef's hats. Dress the part. You make sure you put on this silly chef's hat too. Aren't they great? Aren't they great? You know that you can also get these at Michael's and have the kids decorate them, etc. But sometimes I'm just in a rush and I don't have a lot of time. And you know what? For $1, that's great. And I don't mind leaving with these with the kids. It's a special treat. And parents, it's always fun to incorporate this kind of thing, even when you're doing pretend play with your pretend kitchen at home. The other thing I found that I find they almost always have are kid-size utensils for cooking. Let me show you though what's great about these that you may not have thought about. When kids use utensils that are just right for their little hands, and you know, even 10, 11-year-olds, these are the right size for them. But when they have a fun potato masher, or they've got a spatula, or they've got a whisk, you want it to be the size for their little hands, because then when they put their fist around it, their hand is that much closer to what they're stirring. Now for kids who are super anxious, super hesitant, I might give them a full-size whisk, because then they have a longer handle so that they didn't have to get their hand that close to the food. But I try to move off of there as quickly as I possibly can, because I want their hand to get a little messy. I want them in there digging around with whatever we happen to be making and really involved. And this is more appropriate for their hand and for their body. So again, I got this whole set for $1. And if you wanted, you can include them in the play kitchen, but absolutely, they're fine to be working in a real kitchen with real food. Okay, last 2 things. In Adventures in Veggieland, I was telling you about earlier, in the chapter on cauliflower, look, here's the cauliflower sheet that you make as the first activity. But once you start cooking with the kids, one of my favorite recipes in there is cauliflower popcorn. You know, kids love making it. It looks just like real popcorn. It's really yummy. It's got a little maple syrup in there. But I always buy these popcorn boxes that you get at the dollar store. You get 5 of them for $1, and they fold out into a hard cardboard box. Then what I do is I have the kids fill them up with cauliflower popcorn, but then I have them sell them. So we have a little popcorn stand, and they will sell them to other people in the family, or when I was working in the hospital, they'd sell to other therapists, would come in and buy things from us too. It's really interesting how even if the kid has never tried the food themselves, they try so hard to convince whoever is going to give them a nickel that this is the most delicious food you will ever want to have. And you probably want to buy two. It's just like when they have a lemonade sale and they're trying to sell you the lemonade on the street corner. Same idea. So why not have these for family movie night this weekend? It's super inexpensive. Now the kids are making things with cauliflower, and if they don't end up eating it, that's okay. They had fun getting to know cauliflower. Finally, and then I'm going to take your questions. So often we think of cookie cutters, for making cutouts and sandwiches for lunch boxes or even in pancakes, and that's awesome and super fun. But I wanted to share something different to help kids learn to eat rice. Rice is a very challenging food for kids, but one of the ways to help kids eat rice is to go with sticky rice first, because it binds together a little bit better in their mouth and it won't spread in the lateral sulci when they're trying, always trying to clean out right there. It's a little bit easier to swallow. So you can definitely make your own sticky rice with your kids at home, or just spend an extra buck the next time you're getting Thai takeout or Asian food and ask, can I have an extra serving of sticky rice? And let the kids use big, deep cookie cutters to make rice molds so that the rice is served to each person in the family in the shape of a heart or a star or even just a circle or a flower. And they can put the rice in there and mold it into place. You want to do these first with just a little bit of olive oil spray or coconut oil spray. We all have that in our pantry. And when you put the rice in there, it just pulls right out and you'll have a beautiful little rice flower to put on the plate. And on page 110 of Adventures in Veggieland, you'll see a really fun recipe for learning to eat curry and taking that same idea and having different shapes on the plate. And then the kids can spoon the curry as much as they want onto the rice. It might just be a teaspoon. It might be a half a cup, whatever they feel comfortable doing. So that's on page 110 of Adventures of Veggieland. That was my dollar store. Was that amazing?